Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. I am back. My name is Francisco Cantu, and once again, I was out last week, but once again, I am back to do another live stream. It's another live stream Monday. We should be live right now on both YouTube and Facebook. How to get accepted to college. And here's something that I think is very important for people to understand, especially at this stage in the process. Many people usually wonder or don't know what comes first, whether it is getting a bunch of scholarships or whether it is starting applying to a bunch of different schools. A lot of people ask questions about whether or not you can apply to colleges if you have not filled out the free application for federal student aid or the CSS profile. So there's a lot of confusion there. So hopefully you understand by the end of this presentation the sequence of events and the way that these two, the financing and the application process, kind of complement each other. Okay. So today we'll be focusing on getting accepted, not so much on the financing aspect of things, and we will be talking about ways in which you can improve your students' odds of acceptance. Okay. So with that being said, let's get started with tip number one, and that is for your student to take advanced level classes. Okay. So advanced level classes, that can be anything ranging from advanced placement course, so AP classes, dual enrollment, the IB curriculum. Some schools offer Cambridge, some schools offer all different sorts of advanced level courses. And the whole point of doing this is that pretty much when colleges are evaluating a student, and I'm going to take a step back from the presentation and just talk about the way that an admissions room operates at the college level. So whenever they're evaluating an applicant, part of why they ask for a student's transcripts, college admissions officers, that is because they want to see a full picture of what the high school student did throughout their 4 years of high school. And what I mean by this is not just what grades did they get, but rather what classes did they take and what classes were available at their high school. And with that, they can get a good idea as to how much they challenged themselves. And if they did challenge themselves, how did they respond to said challenges? So it is important to have a good mixture of good grades, because a lot of people ask us, okay, is it okay for me to take a bunch of AP classes if I don't do well? Well, yeah, you should be taking advanced level courses, but not necessarily at the expense of your grades. And usually the sweet spot is focusing on advanced level courses for the materials and the fields of study in which you excel at. So that's what we always recommend to our best college age students to, if they're good at math, go ahead and pursue advanced level courses in math. If you're good at science, go ahead and pursue advanced level course in science, but don't do it on fields of study or areas of study that you're not necessarily good at. So that is usually where you would start. Why? Because you do want to, again, accomplish that good balance of rigorous courses and a good academic performance, because those will coincide, or those two will collaborate into creating, whether it is using your weighted GPA as the prime standard for assessing your academic performance, or a lot of colleges calculate their own GPAs based on their own methodologies. Okay, so that is why it is super important to make sure that you just don't cruise with a bunch of regular classes. And if your school offers it, go ahead and explore what are those advanced level options, again, whether they are AP classes, dual enrollment, Cambridge, IB, whatever the case might be. You want to make sure that you know what options are out there for you, and then based on those options, go ahead and make sure to leverage your strengths on the fields of study that you're good at, and go ahead and take those courses. Okay. And this is something that can be started as early as middle school. I know a lot of middle schools and a lot of the students we work with, because in Best College Aid, we have students who are as young as sixth grade. And something that we really want you to know is that even if your student is in middle school, you can still start building the blocks that will ultimately lead to a very compelling, competitive college application. How can you do this? Well, think about it. If you want to strike that balance of a academically challenging, rigorous curriculum, right? You want to finish your senior year with I don't know, all AP classes or mostly AP classes. In most cases, these high schools, when they're offering advanced placement courses, to just stick with the AP example, they will have prerequisites. And those prerequisites, let's say if you want to take AP calculus or AP Spanish or AP whatever the case might be, um, the prerequisite could be to have taken pre-algebra, algebra 1, algebra 2, pre-calculus, then you can take AP calculus. Or with Spanish, you might need to take 2 years of regular and honor Spanish before you can take the AP class. Again, different schools will have different prerequisites. So what you want to do, especially if your student is in middle school, is start working backwards. If you know where they're going to go to high school, whether it is middle school that has a pipeline into a particular high school, or whether your student is a freshman in high school or a sophomore, whatever the case might be, you want to know where you want to end up. Let's say how many AP classes your student wants to take senior year, and then work backwards when it comes to the prerequisites. Okay, so if the student wants to take AP Calculus 2 by senior year, then maybe they need to take AP Calculus, the first level of AP Calculus junior year. And before that, they have to take pre-calc. And before that, they have to take Algebra 2. And before that, Algebra 1. And before that, pre-algebra. So all of a sudden, you work your way back all the way to 7th grade, what classes they should be taking in order to finish where they want to end up. Okay, so that's something that many people don't think about, that the classes that your student is taking as early as middle school could impact their rigor and thus the competitiveness of your college application when you get to high school. Okay, so those are things to consider. Always know where you want to end up and then work backwards, and you know what your next few steps should be today. Okay, so that is what I wanted to cover for the first topic, or the first tip to increase the competitiveness of your college application. Second thing that I wanted to talk about is character and personal quality. So in the previous slide, or in the previous point, we talked about something that is easily quantifiable, which is AP advanced level classes and the grade that you get in those classes. But now, talking about characters and personal qualities, this is a little bit less cut and dry, less clear cut, because a lot of again, an SAT score is an SAT score, and it's a number. Your grades, you either get an A plus, an A, B plus, a B minus. It's a percentage, right? So that is very easy to quantify and compare, because again, it comes down to GPAs. But when it comes to non-tangible aspects of your college application, as is the case with characters and personal qualities, I want to give you a little bit of a tip and a little bit of a more advanced level set of to-dos for you to really set yourself up, or your student up, to succeed whenever they're compiling or making their final list of colleges. Okay, so one exercise that we're going to do right now, that I recommend that you all do, and that we recommend to our members to do when they're making their list of colleges, is that let's go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. And in my screen right now, what I have pulled up is the common data set for the University of Pennsylvania. So I don't know if you can see my screen properly. There it is. The common data set of the University of Pennsylvania, one of the best universities in the world. Actually, last summer I was there visiting a friend who works at a research lab there, and beautiful campus, but you can do this with any school. You pull up what is called the common data set of the latest admitted students class. In this case, we're pulling up the University of Pennsylvania's common data set for the 2021-2022 school year, okay? And pretty much what you'll see amongst a bunch of different other information is, right now I'm scrolling down, but you will see things such as information from the school. So whether it's public, private, or proprietary. So you can see right now that University of Pennsylvania is a private university. You can see the academic calendar is based on semesters. Okay, so it'll have a lot of information like that, but that's not what I want to focus on today. What I want to focus on, for the sake of the purpose of this presentation, is the following. And let me scroll further down. Let's see. Okay, so right here in C, in first time first year admissions, when you go to the category of basis of selection, you can see that the University in Pennsylvania, whenever they're evaluating a student, the rigor of their secondary school record, so the rigor of the classes that they took in high school, is a very important element of their college application, right? Whereas their class rank is still important, but is not as important as the rigor of the classes that they took, right? So a lot of students who go to maybe a school that is not necessarily as academically successful or challenging, or maybe they don't have that many students, or they're top of their class, they might want to look for schools whose data set indicates that class rank is the most important things. Whereas students who go to big schools with a lot of competition and they might have an almost perfect GPA, but their class rank might not be number one because there's a lot of other high achieving students, might be better off applying to schools that don't necessarily prioritize class rank, right? So you start to see how, based on how important these elements of a college application are for a particular university, you can play to your strengths and your student can apply to schools that line up with their areas of strengths, whether those are they have a very strong GPA or they have a strong standardized test scores. Because again, right now, most of these are very important, but other schools might not consider test scores or might not consider class rank. So the name of the game is to look at schools and how your statistics stack up against them. So if you scroll further down and you go to non-academic considerations, when you look at things like the interview or extracurricular activities, talent or ability, they are important, but they're not as important as their GPA, for example, or character or personal qualities, which get displayed through the essay portion of a college application. Other things such as first generation, alumni, geographical residence, or the state where they're from, yeah, they might be considered, but they're not super important. Religious affiliation and commitment, not considered at all. Okay, so again, this is just one particular case or example as to a common data set and how it can be used to get an idea as to how your student stacks up or how their strengths stack up against the considerations or things that a university values. And again, looking at each common data set for every school in your student's potential list of colleges that they'll apply to is the best use of your time whenever you're finalizing that list, because you'll be able to see how competitive, how truly competitive your student can be for those schools. Okay, so just to round that out and finish up talking about the character and personal qualities of this component or consideration of the college application acceptance journey, different non-academic qualities, as we saw on the common data set, could be leadership, the role that they take in their extracurricular activities or the clubs, teams, organizations that they join. How involved are they? Do they have a title? Do they have an impact with their presence or membership in that club? Next up is risk-taking. And by risk-taking, it could be something as simple as, maybe they changed sports and they were a very promising football star, but then they changed to baseball because they wanted to try their luck, and they've been committed to baseball now for the last 4 years, something like that. How much of risk takers there are, their initiative, their social responsibilities, are they in key club? Are they in the environmental club? Those little elements that give college admissions officers glimpses of to who your student is beyond a set of words in a piece of paper, beyond just numbers in a transcript. Okay. And then finally, we have things such as service, talents, and special abilities. And those can be very much leveraged to receive institutional scholarships, even if your student wants to be a college athlete or wants to be part of the theater club or different activities like that, can all add up towards making a very compelling college application. Okay, so just to remind you all, that was a little bit more technical, but it is very important to look at the common data sets and scroll all the way down to the basis for selection section of the common data sets, because they'll give you a very good idea as to what every particular college values when evaluating a student. Okay, so that was tip number 2 on how to improve your odds of acceptance, or how to become a more compelling applicant. And then the third step before we get to the Q&A section of the presentation is demonstrated interest. Okay, now demonstrated interest is another non tangible element of a college application, and not all schools value demonstrated interest. But let me first explain what it is, how you can leverage it, why some schools don't value it, and different ways in which you can use this to your advantage. Okay, so pretty much demonstrated interest is if you are a prospective student, right? Student, and you are, let's say you have two profiles that are exactly the same GPA, same SAT scores, same extracurricular activities, everything is the same. However, one student went for a college visit, has built a report with the representative for their geographic region for within the admissions office. They have been in constant communication, asking questions, keeping up with the status of their application. Obviously, this is not going to be the main driving factor, and the considerations that we talked about in the previous tip of GPA, SAT, all those things are going to come first. However, when it comes to those marginal decisions, people who are, whether it is on the wait list or whether it's right on the edge, it cannot hurt to demonstrate a lot of interest in the school, right? It shows commitment. It shows that if a student gets accepted there, they might be very likely to attend. Whereas a student who has demonstrated no interest, the same student with the same qualifications might be more likely to opt for a different school, right? So in a lot of schools, especially state schools, they love when a student demonstrates interest, and this can be done through, again, college visits, keeping a report with a representative from the school, whether it is a professor that you're interested in the research, or whether this is a coach, whether this is a admissions representative who you've been exchanging questions or emails with. All those things, again, they cannot hurt you, and they might act in your favor if it comes to a very marginal decision, or a very thin razor margin decision of whether or not your student will be accepted or not. Okay, so demonstrated interest, and that is the dual benefit of going on these college visits, is the fact that not only does it help the admissions representative see that the student is demonstrating interest in a school, but it also helps the student determine whether or not that school is even a good option for them, because they'll be able to, go onto the campus, see a little bit of, campus life, whether or not they like what they see, whether the facilities look good, whether they get a good vibe from the school. Again, all those, making those visits, if possible, can be very eye-opening, not just for the school, again, because it assesses demonstrated interest, but also for the student, because they get a clearer picture as to where the place that they would call home, what it looks like, right? So that's demonstrated interest. And then I just wanted to finish up this section by talking a little bit about some schools that don't necessarily consider demonstrated interest when evaluating a student. So, for example, there are Ivy Leagues, or there are very prestigious universities who don't necessarily consider demonstrated interest, because every student has demonstrated interest in attending those schools, right? Because they are Ivy Leagues, they're Harvard, they're Stanford. So everyone would love to go there. So they don't really, let me demonstrate it. I wanna go ahead and uh interest. Okay, I wanted to see if in the common data set I could find demonstrated interest. This particular one doesn't have it, but some common data sets do put a little bit of a value, or some sort of indication of how much they weigh in demonstrated interest. And that's something that you should also keep an eye out whenever you're looking at this common data sets. Okay, so just to recap everything that we talked about, the three tips that I gave you when submitting or going through the college application process to increase your odds of acceptance. First, obviously, take advanced level classes. There's a dual benefit of being weighted on a higher scale, GPA scale, and also determining, or helping the student determine what they want to study. It looks great in a college application to have a rigorous schedule, and again, it can be very eye opening for the student in terms of them finding a passion, and also being able to increase or boost that weighted GPA. Right. Secondly, we talked about character and personal qualities, and seeing which qualities a college or a university values in their prospective students, and And we also talked, or I shared with you how you can look at something called the common data set, as we did with the example of the University of Pennsylvania and the latest admitted student class, which was class of 2021, 2022. All the schools in your list, go ahead and Google their name, the name of the university or the college, and then common data set, and you'll be able to see this document that gives you a lot of insightful information as to, let me find it again. Um, what they consider what they consider very important or important, consider not consider elements of their application, whether it's academics such as academic GPA, class rank, essays, or extracurricular activities, the state that they're from, work experience, all those things. Again, um, are found in the common data set, and they will help you determine whether or not a school will value the strengths or will see the weaknesses in your student application, okay, or their overall profile within that application, okay. So we went over that, and then we finished up talking about demonstrated interest and how things such as college visits or networking with admissions representatives, alumni, professors, coaches, all those things, being very committed to the potential or the idea of going to a school can make a little bit of a difference or give you a slight edge to schools who do value demonstrated interest. And again, you can find more about whether or not they value this through their common data sets. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and remind you all before I get to the Q&A session of the presentation. I want to remind you all that if you found this information valuable, or let's say you joined and you learned a thing or two and you're itching for more information, we do have a free training, a free presentation that is on the 6 strategies to help your children get accepted to college with scholarships. Again, today we only focused on a few tips on how to make your students' college application profile or a college application as a whole more competitive. However, in this presentation, we don't just focus on acceptance, but we focus on how to make sure that they're as eligible as possible for as much money as possible to finance their studies. And this is done through federal, institutional, state, and private aid. So we talk about the money aspect of the college application. We talk more about the components of a competitive and compelling application, and all that is in this free presentation. All you have to do to sign up is, if you go to this YouTube video, for example, let's say you're watching us on YouTube, and you scroll down to the description of the video, you can see free training, and below the free training you see a link that invites you to register to the 6 steps to go to college with scholarships presentation. You go down here to yes, please save my seat, and you should be able to register for free. Again, I do these live streams every week on YouTube and Facebook at 7 p.m. And then on Instagram and TikTok at 7 p.m. as well on Tuesdays. However, these live streams are very specific to one aspect of the college application journey. And this presentation is more of an overall approach to everything. So if you're left, itching for more information than the one that I just gave you, that is how you obtain it. You watch that free presentation and you learn even more things in less amount of time than what I just spent talking to you. So it's been very helpful. We've had thousands of parents telling us that it's been more helpful than 4 years of college counseling from their overwhelmed high school counselor, who by no fault of their own, simply high school counselors have to 10 to 450 students every year on average, and their parents. So they just don't have the resource to share this information one-on-one. So this presentation really, really helps out a lot. And if after that presentation, you're interested in learning even more and joining a program in which you get guided through every single step of the process and what you should be doing every month of every year, from middle school all the way to when your student is already in college, and refilling out those financial aid forms and all those things, then I do invite you to take advantage of the 60% off back to school sale that we're having right now. The full cost of Best College Age is $997, which again, compared to the tens of thousands of dollars that a private college counselor can charge, is already significantly less. But because we are running this back to school sale, you don't even have to pay that. You pay $397 or 3 monthly payments of $177. And the reason why we're so confident about best colleges because we've seen results already. Students who have gotten accepted to Harvard, UPenn, the University of North Carolina, Northeastern, Northwestern, and they receive financial award packages of tens of thousands of dollars, which means that this is an investment that really yields tenfold their returns, or however many the returns of their financial aid award package is compared to the cost of joining. Okay, so that's a special sale that we're running from now until the 31st of January. So 8 days left. And again, you don't have to start there. If you're a little bit overwhelmed by joining the full pay program, you can just start by watching the free presentation, learn a thing or two. And at the end, if you're interested, you can revisit that. But do start off with the free presentation and then decide for yourself whether or not you are interested in joining the full paid Best College Aid program. But regardless of whether or not you join the full Best College Aid program, do know that we will continue to have these weekly live streams on Monday at 7 p.m. on YouTube and Facebook, and on Tuesday at 7 p.m. on Instagram and TikTok. All right. So I'm checking the the chats right now, looking for any questions that might have been asked. I don't see any questions that have been asked, so I'm going to give you all a little bit more time to ask your questions. And in the meantime, I'm going to remind you all to go ahead and follow us on our social media channels. That is Best College Aid USA across the board on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. And if you have not already done so, go ahead and click on the subscribe button right there so that you can get notified whenever we go live on Facebook and YouTube, and you will be able to see all of our content, all of our videos, and will never feel lost. All right. So do go ahead and click on that subscribe button. I don't see any more questions, so I'm going to assume that is because everything got explained perfectly clearly. I do want to again remind you all, if you are a current member of Best College Aid, I do want to remind you that we will be having next week a members only Q&A session, a very intensive session, checking in on the status of where you're at, how you've been doing the process, if you have any questions or anything in particular that you want to address. And that should be a good way to start the spring semester of whatever your student is at. Okay, so that will be next week, and keep an eye out for your email for more reminders like this one and more information like that if you're already a member. And if you want to be a member of Best College Aid and you want to learn even more valuable information, do go ahead and take advantage of that 60% off back to school sale that we're having from $997 to $397. All right. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to call it a day. My name is Francisco Cantu, and I am very grateful that you were here with me for the last hour. And I will be back here tomorrow on YouTube and Instagram doing the same presentation and hopefully giving you a lot of value. All right.